Hey guys, welcome back to another video. I'm Mike Benitez. We're back with another ship bias video of the ships involved in Pearl Harbor. And today we're going to be talking about one of the lesser known ships in the Pearl Harbor attack. Maybe it's because she only got bombed twice during the attack, but this ship was named the USS Maryland. Let's begin the story, shall we? Maryland was part of the Colorado class and was the second ship built for the class. She had two sister ships, the Colorado and the West Virginia, who was also in Pearl Harbor and had suffered serious damage. But the fourth ship of the class, the Washington, was never completed. Construction began on Maryland in 1917 and was completed and commissioned by 1921. Here's a picture taken on board Maryland in 1922. It is of Secretary of State Charles Evans Hughes and Admiral Hilary P. Jones, Commander-in-Chief of the U.S. Atlantic Fleet, on board Maryland in August of 1922 during Maryland's cruise to Rio de Janeiro to participate in the Brazilian Sentinel Expedition. In fact, Maryland was the flagship of Admiral Hilary P. Jones, but in 1923, the flagship was then shifted to Pennsylvania. Maryland also in 1925 transported elected President Herbert Hoover on his Pacific leg to visit Latin America. Maryland was then overhauled in 1928 to 1929. After taking numerous patrols in the Pacific in the 1930s, in 1940, Maryland, along with her sister West Virginia and the other battleships and cruisers, were then transported to Pearl Harbor. Here we see her and the USS Arizona, which was totally lost in the attack. As the attack began on Pearl Harbor, two torpedoes had already hit the USS Oklahoma, which was stationed next to the Maryland. But one of Maryland's men was able to get one of her guns in action, and so he was able to take down one torpedo bomber that had just struck the Oklahoma, and soon all of her guns were in action. Even after the sinking of their ship, the USS Oklahoma, Oklahoma's men climbed aboard Maryland to fire at her help fire her guns against the Japanese in the event of sinking their ship. Maryland fought bravely until the end of the attack. During the whole attack, Maryland only suffered two bombs, one in her forecastle and one in her hull. Even though the Japanese said that Maryland was sunk during the attack. This, however, was not true, and like Tennessee, she only had suffered two bomb hits. Unlike her sister West Virginia, which is in the background right there, which is completely sunk. We will talk about West Virginia in the next video. Here we see an aerial photo of Pearl Harbor after the attack. Maryland is near the top of the photo, which probably means she's that ship right there. Here we see Maryland in 1942 after the completion of her repairs, and still she was now back in action. And with her revenge sister West Virginia, which would not be restored until 1944, they were able to get revenge on the Japanese. Maryland played a supporting role in the Battle of Midway, where she was in the backup fleet, judging that she and the other older battleships were not as fast to keep up with the aircraft carriers. Maryland was set to the backup fleet of the West Coast, which was to back up any ships that would be lost in the Battle of Midway. Soon, Maryland was sent back to San Francisco. During the Battle of Tarawa in 1943, Maryland was the flagship of Admiral Harry Wilbur Hill. In fact, Hill had served in as the gunnery officer on Maryland in 1929. What a coincidence that now she was his flagship. Here we see Maryland in 1944 in Pearl Harbor Naval Yard, on the 10th of July, 1944, showing torpedo damage that she sustained during the Battle of Saipan. I hope I'm saying that right. Here is another photo of Maryland in 1944. As I said before, many of the battleships that had survived Pearl Harbor were in the Battle of the Saragi Strait during the Battle of Leyte Gulf, and Maryland was one of those ships. She was hit by a kamikaze, which but suffered only minor or serious damage. This kamikaze attack was a surprise and had killed 31 men and had injured another 30 more, and had damaged the ship's 2 forward turrets, which are those two right there. But still, the Maryland would be a great fighter until the end of her life. Here we see Maryland during in early of 1945. Another kamikaze would hit Maryland during when she was one of the escorting ships of the aircraft carriers that would sink the Japanese battleship Yamato. After World War II, Maryland was part of the Operation Magic Carpet fleet, and she would make 5 voyages to the West Coast and Pearl Harbor. Here we see Maryland in Puget Sound Naval Yard in August of 1945, after the end of World War II. But soon, Maryland would meet her end in the Cutter's Torch. During her old time in World War II, Maryland would have 2 nicknames: Old Mary and the Fighting Mary. Maryland was taken out of service in 1946 after being served in the inactive reserve. And in July of 1959, the Old Mary was scrapped. But the Maryland was never forgotten by the men who loved her or served on her. In 1961, Governor of Maryland, what was his name again? J. Millard Tawes made this monument to honor Maryland and her crew. This is now in Annapolis. Maryland. Here are the awards received by Maryland: American Defense Medal, etc., etc. Also, Maryland gave 7 battle stars for her service in World War II. Then you guys are hearing the story of the USS Maryland. In the next video, we're gonna be talking about the last known battleship in Pearl Harbor. Yes, I said known. You'll see that when I see you in the video. The USS West Virginia, the Maryland sister ship. Have a nice day, everybody. This is Michael Benitez signing out on the story of the USS Maryland.